Okay, so today we're talking about changing between percents, decimals, and fractions. And really, we've kind of learned how to do this already. So really, we're going to give you some examples to show you and demonstrate what they might look like and how to work between the three of them, because they are basically the same thing. They're just different ways of looking at them. So let's go ahead and give you some examples and we'll go on. So percent. So we're going to change stuff from percent into other things. So let's go 33%. And let's say I want to change that into a fraction. Well, this is the easiest thing to do, is change a percent to a fraction. All you have to do is understand that percent means per hundred. And you get 33%, which is 33% or per hundred. Make sure that that fraction is reduced. And 3 and 11 are the only factors that come out of 33. Neither one of those come out of 100. Therefore, you have that correct answer. Let's try another one here. 64 and 0.8%. And let's change that guy into a fraction. Okay. Let's see here. So here again, change it into a fraction. Easiest thing to do, that is 64 and 0.8. That is still percent. Now we've got a percent and a fraction here. So really, we don't want that. We want to take this percent symbol, or excuse me, this decimal, and get it out of there. So really, I move it to the back. Well, by moving it to the back, I actually multiplied it by 10. So what I got to do the top, I got to do the bottom, which inserts actually another 0 here. And now I have to look at that and see if it reduces. Well, obviously an 8 is even, a 0 is even, so they're divisible by 2. But then they go divisible by 2 again and divisible by 2 again. So really, I want to divide that, well, my greatest common factor in this case, which is 8, and I end up with 81 over 125. And that is my reduced answer. So the part's not hard, it's really not hard changing it into a fraction, but once we get it to a fraction, we always must make sure that that fraction is reduced. Let's take another one, and this one confuses a lot of kids. We're going to take 9 1/5% and change it to a fraction. Well, a lot of kids will just drop the percent sign. Hey, it looks like a fraction. It's got to be a fraction. 9% is very, very, very small number when compared to the number 100%. This number should be less than 1 then. 9 1/5 is not less than 1. So if you simply just drop that percent sign, you don't have the answer right. But if we keep doing it the way we know how and just take 9 1/5 and divide it by 100, now all of a sudden we've got a fraction divided by 100. And now it starts to put into a play that this is 9 1/5 divided by 100. Now we know we can't do that. It's got to change into an improper fraction. And now we copy dot flip that guy, which is 46/5, copy dot, and 100 reciprocates to 1/100th. I can now reduce. I want to do that in a different color. And I can take a 2 out of both. When I do, I get 23 here and 50 there. Tops to tops, bottoms to bottoms. So really the same format, it all works. Just because the numbers didn't work exactly right, because they didn't look exactly right, doesn't mean we can't manipulate through those guys. Let's talk about fractions. All right, so we're going to take fractions. We're going to turn those guys into percents real quick. So let's take a fraction. Let's take 18/5. And we want to change it in to a percent. Now, if you look at this guy's bigger than 1. It's an improper fraction, which means my number should be bigger than 100%. Irregardless, I want to make 18/5, as we talked about the other day, to a percent. Well, cross products, and away we go. So we get 5n equals 18 times 100, and yes, I can make that 1800, but here again, why? If I'm just going to divide by 5, n will equal, and that 5 goes into 120 times. So 18 times 2 is 36. With that 0 on the backside, we get 360. When I plug this guy back in, I'm actually trying to find a percent, so 360 over 100 is actually 360%, which is, as we talked about, bigger than 100%. Now, this one's fairly simple. 1/3 as a percent. And there are just some fractions that we know. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. 1/3 is one of those that we should know. 2/3 we should know, but not as a percent. Most of the time we convert those into fractions very, very quickly. And yeah, we can say that 1/3 we know as a decimal as 3/10 continuous, but that doesn't necessarily give us a percent. So keep doing what we've been doing. A fraction that we want to be a percent is still a number over 100%. So I get 100 equals 3n. Divide by 3, divide by 3, and n equals 33. And then yes, we do get that 1/3 or that 3 continuous forever. But if you read the directions on your homework will actually tell you to round this to the nearest hundredth of a percent, which means we've got to make it a percent first, which means 0.33 gets some hundredths of value. The thousandths value would also be a 3, which means this guy becomes 33 33/100%. And grant you, this is rounded, so we need to make sure that's not exactly equal, because that is 0.33333 forever, or 33 1/3%. And last but not least, if we give you a mixed number, just feel like I really need to show you this, to a percent. This is still 2 5/8 is equal to what number over 100? Because we can make that into a percent. Here again, this is 2 5/8 over 1, right? Let's see. So let's just change that into, we got 8, 16 and 21 equals n over 100. So we get 2100. 8, and divide by 8, divide by 8. And I know I can get a 4 out of these guys, so there goes 2. There goes 4 of those, is 25, which actually gives me an odd-looking number here. It gets us 5/25 is equal to n. Well, if I divide that by 2, I can get that back to linear. And this actually comes out to 262 5/10, which is n, which if I plug that back up into that is per 100, which is 262.5%. If we think about it, that is 200% approximately, 200 and some junk percent. Some junk just is 62.5%. All right, so now let's go decimals, and we're going to work back and forth from a decimal. So if I go 56/100, and I want to change it to a percent. Well, to me, the easiest way to change it into a percent, because percent is per 100, which is base 10. The way you name decimals is base 10. So if I say this number, this is 56/100. Well, guess what 56/100 is? 56/100 is 56%. Now, yes, if you want, you can take 56 is equal to n over 100, and what you find out is 56/100 times 100 gets me 5600, 2 digits behind, is still 56%. So sometimes the way we recognize things, the more we know about them, the more we can recognize them in different ways, the faster we can come upon the answer. Let's do this again. So we have 5 thousandths, what was I saying? And we're trying to make that into a fraction. Say it. It's 5 thousandths. It's a fraction, which means, guess what? We have to reduce it. 5 comes out of both of them. Leaves me 1 on the top, 200 on the bottom. Please make sure you reduce. And that's that. One last one before I leave you today. We're going to take this guy and we're going to make it into a fraction as well. All right. And yes, this guy is 85. It is in the thousandths place. All of a sudden it's a fraction. Now I have to reduce it. And the funny thing about it is, you think, oh, this will reduce forever. It ends in 5 and 0. Try that 5. Take it out of the top, take it out of the bottom. Take it out of the bottom, it's fairly simple. You get 200. Take it out of the top, you actually end up getting 17. And 17 is prime, which means unless 200 is a multiple of 17, it's reduced as well. So hopefully here's a few examples. You can refer to those guys, refer back to this video, and it'll help you do a little bit more of your homework.